Okay, I think we could get started.
Go right ahead, Rosalie.
Keep people waiting any longer. Anyway, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Rosalie Joseph. I'm co-president. And before we go any further, I would like to introduce the rest of the board. So if you see them in the hallway, you want to talk to them, you'll recognize them. So we'll start with Anna Bain, our co-president.
Hi, I'm Anna.
Board, unmute yourself so you could say hi. Robin Forrest, first vice president.
Hello. Welcome.
Vittoria Ferriello, who's our second vice president. She's actually on a plane, so.
I might have muted her. There we go, Vittoria.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I can't be there in my video, but hopefully I will see you guys in the hallway and recognize you.
And Jeff Galloway, secretary.
Hello, everybody.
Arlene Wiese, co-treasurer.
Hi. Hi, everyone.
Shannon, co-treasurer. Shannon? Is she there? Okay.
Hello, everyone.
There she is. And our board members, Sarah Cassell. Not sure if she's here.
Sarah hasn't joined yet.
Okay. Audrey Comiskey. Are you here, Audrey? Okay.
No.
We know that Larry Emmert can't be here this evening. Pat Gray. Pat?
I haven't seen Pat.
Okay. Mark Liebman.
Hi, good evening.
And Mary Mooney.
Hi there.
Anyway, thank you all. So everybody, I'm going to mention a few things before we get into the heart of the meeting, but if you want to learn about updates that affect Gateway or meeting announcements, in between our newsletters, just go to our website, gpta.org. I'm sure you're familiar with it. And shortly, we'll also be posting the Treasury report for the quarter, but you could also get information by following us on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, just so we could keep you as up to date as possible. Now, speaking of the website, we all know that there's power in numbers, and with a greater membership, the louder our voice. So if you're not a member of the Tenants Association, please consider joining, okay? The membership is $25 per household per year, but we also welcome donations as well if you would like to support our work even more. And again, you could join right on our website. Now, we think it's important for you to hear what we can do and what we can't do, okay? We're not legal advisors, or we can't be rent dispute mediators. And we also can't help with, individual issues, but we want you to let us know about those individual problems via email so we could identify those, those common issues and address them with management. And for those individual issues, your first line of defense is to contact management directly. Put it in an email, copy GTA, so we can keep track of the broader issues that are affecting our tenants. The GTA board is very committed to this community. So I want to remind you that, we're all volunteers and we're doing our very best to advocate for all of Gateway. The last thing, there were some difficulties with the Q&A feature at the Resiliency meeting last week. So today we've opened the chat up to everyone, right, Anna?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
So everyone can drop a question in the chat as we go through. We have a few things to update you on, but drop questions whenever.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you for joining. We're going to do these periodically. We've already had a few this year, so you'll be hearing from us about them. But before we get to the Q&A, we just have a few other points to cover. So I'm going to turn this over to board member Mark Liebman.
Thank you, Rosalie. So just a few things on what we've been working on and a few things to spotlight here. One of the big priorities for this year was to establish some committees that the board can focus on some more tangible items rather than have the entire board try to focus on everything. Earlier this year, we established a housing committee to work and focus on the quasi-rent stabilization and affordability issues, a committee on tenant engagement, and a committee on quality of life. So for those of you who are joining us tonight who aren't on the board, but may feel like you'd like to get involved in some fashion, it doesn't take a big commitment to be on one of our committees. So we'd encourage you to drop an email to the Gateway Plaza TA@gmail.com and just let us know you're interested in learning more about our committees. Some of them might just be, a couple hours on a special project. Some of them might be, an hour or two a month to help with some of these projects and get involved. A couple things on rent issues that the tenants associations have been active watching and monitoring and advocating for. Earlier in October, the New York State Senate passed and Governor Hochul signed a bill that prohibits landlords from using automated algorithmic rent pricing tools. There's been a lot of talk nationwide about these tools driving rent prices up. We were happy to see that our elected officials took that on as an issue. We believe that will provide some protection for tenants. And if you're not familiar with a law that passed in 24, that again, the Gateway Tenant Association was very active in advocating for, was what's known as good cause eviction. It's passed last year, and it caps rent increases that landlords are allowed to pass on to the tenants based on it's a little bit complicated as everything with government tends to be, but if your rent is below a certain amount, the landlord is prohibited from raising your rent more than 8.8% in 25. That's adjusted annually. So if you're not familiar with that, you'd like to learn more about it, drop an email to the Tenant Association, Gateway Plaza TA@gmail.com. We'll be happy to go through and explain a little bit more about how that works, who's covered and who's not covered.
One thing I wanted to add on that, Mark, is we also have a frequently asked questions site page on our site, and the first thing on there is about good cause with a link to an article. So
thank you. As Rosalie mentioned, we are about 3,000 plus or minus residents here at Gateway, 1,700 apartments, roughly 3,000 people. There's 12 or 13 people on the board. It's a lot of people to kind of represent and cover. Unfortunately, we can't get to everybody every week or every month. So we're trying to do a better job and more actively soliciting input from everybody. So one of the things that's currently working on right now is a tenant survey. It's been going for about 2 weeks. We have about a little over 220 responses so far. If you've submitted your response, thank you very much. If you haven't yet, please do. They're anonymous. We believe is going to help us provide some good information, particularly with management as it deals with some affordability issues and some quality of life issues. One thing I do want to point out, we have seen a little bit of feedback on that survey so far, with a couple of people who seem to believe that the Gateway Tenants Association has joined a lawsuit to prohibit the resiliency project. And there was some things in the news about the Battery Park Tenants Associations, and it was a little bit vague, trying to sue to stop or go to court about the resiliency project. The Gateway Tenant Association is not part of that. And there are some in the Battery Park community who are pursuing that, but that's not been something that the Tenant Association has been involved with. We've been very involved with learning more about the resiliency project and staying up to date with Battery Park City Authority and learning about how we're going to be impacted, how we can raise our concerns, and that's going to be addressed a little bit more with Jeff. We did have a conversation, a Zoom meeting in May or springtime. I'm not sure it was May. I think it was May. That Battery Park City hosted with us. We had another one 2 weeks ago. The authority's committed to having another one in the spring, and very committed to working with the Tenant Association on hearing our feedback, hearing our concerns, addressing them, and working with us on making sure that this difficult and large project can be managed as efficiently as possible. So Jeff will talk a little bit more about that. One more plug on the survey. We have selected 3 winners of our $10 gift card. We're going to select 3 more next week. So if you haven't yet done the survey, please do it, and hopefully you'll win one of the $10 gift cards. In addition, we started in October with what we call our Let's Talk sessions, where members of the board are available in the building lobbies or the building courtyard to meet one-on-one and just kind of talk about what your concerns are, what your questions are, what you want to advocate for, if you want to get involved. So we had one in mid-October. We had a bit of an informal one, trick-or-treating and passing out candy and talking to tenants on Halloween night. There's another one this Saturday. It'll be in the 375, 385 lobbies from 11 to 3. So if you have questions that don't get answered tonight, or you'd like to talk to somebody one-on-one, please stop by the 375, 385 lobby this Saturday. There'll be another one in mid-December. And just one last thing here. We're continuing to do regular newsletters and social media updates. If you're not getting our newsletters, please email the Gateway Plaza TA at gmail.com. Make sure we have your current and active email, or you can go to the website and sign up there. And as Rosalie briefly mentioned, we do have an Instagram page. It's fairly new. We'd love to have you tag your puppies and dogs and kittens and children and the view of your sunsets. So please, GTA_BPC is our Instagram page. We'd love to see more of you there. So, and that's a quick update of what we've been working on and what we're focused on for the rest of the year. So thank you, Anna.
Thanks, Mark. Let me pull up Jeff.
Okay, I'll just briefly go over a couple of resiliency points. As Mark mentioned, and as probably most of you know, we had a presentation that we co-hosted with Battery Park City Authority week or so ago, where the authority gave a summary of what we can expect over the next several months. It's fundamentally this, what they call site readiness work. And if you look out towards Albany Street, you can certainly see it's beginning already. And in short order, these areas that are highlighted in red on this map here will also see some of this site readiness work. This is not the, it consists primarily of moving utilities, installing some underground infrastructure items like tide gates and so forth on the sewer lines. So this is necessary in order to do the actual resiliency project, but it's not part of the resiliency construction per se. If we go to the next slide, one of the issues that we get a lot of questions on, and that I get a lot of questions on, is, well, when can we expect what to happen? And the meeting that we had recently focused, as I said, on the next 60 days or so, and that's in the sort of the gray timeline here. You can see what will be closed up until the March-April timeframe. And it's basically those areas that were highlighted in the last slide. But the real project, the one that's going to be the most disruptive of us, will start after that, and probably more or less immediately after that. So sometime between March and June, the authority doesn't yet have the precise date yet. They're still finalizing some of the permitting. The work will start in earnest. And what we've laid out in this slide are some schedules and sequences that come from the environmental impact statement. The authority has promised us an updated schedule within the next 60 days or so. And a lot of these dates may change, but at least based on the schedule that's most recently published, this is what we can expect. And that's basically the first work that we're going to see, a major work on the project will be around North Cove. And the part of the North Cove, the Pump House Park, and areas near the marina that are closing for this preliminary work momentarily will basically remain closed and remain closed for 5 years. That's the most difficult and complicated part of the project. There's going to be some major work outside of Gateway immediately west on the Esplanade as well. And that will last about 3 years, but it doesn't start until about a year after the project starts. It starts at month 13. And so the Esplanade outside of where we are, I wouldn't expect to see disruption there until April, July timeframe of 2027. And then the other area that has major work next to Gateway is the Kowski Plaza area, the volleyball court area. That work doesn't start until month 31, so that's almost 3 years away, and that work will last about 2 years, and then everything is done in month 27, or roughly 5 years from when it starts. So we just wanted to give you an idea of when to expect what. And so although a lot of work will be starting in the immediate future, the area of the Esplanade right outside of us won't start for another year. The Kowski Plaza area won't start for another almost 3 years. Everything I'm saying on schedule is subject to change when the final schedule comes out, but based on the environmental impact statement, this is what we can expect. Next slide. So we've got a number of questions about, what are the actual impacts that we can expect in the near future? So we're losing some parking spots on Albany Street, a couple of parking spots on Rector Place. Construction people are not supposed to be using parking spots except for the actual construction vehicles. If you see any personal construction vehicles parking on the streets where they're not supposed to be, by all means, let the Battery Park City Authority know. We'll have some contact information on the next slide in a minute, because they're not supposed to be there, and the authority is committed to trying to enforce that. They're trying to use some so-called quieter techniques, but make no mistake, some parts of this construction is going to be noisy, we're just going to have to deal with it. But once again, if there are complaints about inappropriate noise, the contact information that we'll show in a minute is the place to make the complaint. There will be an independent air monitor monitoring all of the air quality issues, and there will be real-time alerts for exceedances. We're working right now with the authority on defining, when I say we, I actually mean the community board is working right now to define the parameters of what that independent air monitoring will consist of. And we'll have updates on that when those parameters are finalized. We have asked the authority for whether or not there could be rent abatements based on the disturbances at Gateway. They said no to that. But they have also assured us that there will be limited impact on things like the ferry terminal, and they've notified us that some Gateway apartments will require some Battery Park City Authority inspection. That's basically to establish a baseline, so that they want to know the existing condition now. They don't expect the construction to disrupt anything in any of the apartments, but they're taking a baseline now so that if a crack shows up in your apartment from the construction, you'll be able to prove that it came then and wasn't there before, because the apartment will have been inspected beforehand. Next slide, I think, is the contact information. Okay, so well, first of all of you should have gotten a card that I can't quite focus this card because my focus, whatever, but you should have gotten a card that looks like this shape and general color scheme in the mail that has all sorts of contact information on it, including the kinds of things that we're showing here. The authority is going to have some drop-ins on Fridays and Tuesdays at their offices on 200 Rector Place. By the West Hams Park. The contact, the community liaison contact is Michael Ryan. His phone number is here. His email is here. All of this information is going to be on our website, so you don't need to scroll it down right now, as well as the special website for the Resiliency Project. And then we have our own contact information here, as well as the Gateway Management contact information. So as issues come up on any of these subjects, feel free to reach out. And I think that's it for me, right, Anna?
Correct. I see a lot of questions coming through about the resiliency. I'm sure we'll come back to this momentarily. I'm just going to spend 1 minute talking about rent affordability, because I think this is also a super hot topic for everyone here at Gateway. And then we'll go to the Q&A. So if anyone's not familiar, at Gateway, there is a quasi-rent stabilization agreement in place. It only applies to residents who have lived here since 2009. So if you moved in after that, you're not covered generally, which certainly applies to me and a lot of other people. I have down here 75% of Gateway tenants are not covered. But right now, the QRS agreement that exists is set to expire in June 2030. And we, the Tenants Association, have already been working on extending this. We started several years ago looking ahead, but we've ramped it up. I think this year we've had a lot of meetings with all of our elected officials at the super local level and broader to get their support, and they've given us their support publicly, but now we're just working on the next steps. But that is all for extending QRS. We also certainly care about the market rate tenants. Like I said, I am one of them. So the Tenants Association is working on solutions, creative strategies, what we can do to help make rent here at Gateway more sustainable. And I think going back to what Mark was saying, your answers on the survey would be super helpful. I think a lot of the survey respondents we've gotten so far were QRS. We'd love to hear from market rate tenants. How long do you plan on staying? What's keeping you from staying? What was your last rent increase? Those questions and answers will really help us as we continue to advocate for that. And I will scoot now to the Q&A. So like we said at the beginning, and I will maybe unpin everybody so we're all just looking at the gallery. But the Zoom chat is open. I see the questions in there. Mark's been responding, and I'm going to triage a few of them. You can also raise your hand and I can unmute you, but I just want to remind everyone to be respectful. Like Rosalie said at the beginning, we're all volunteers. We're giving our time to work for the Tenants Association and for all the tenants here. We're just doing our best. So I will turn it over to Q&A now. Let me fix the spotlights. 1 second. Where are you, Jeff? It's just you, Jeff. There we go. Okay, so looking at some of the questions that Mark has already answered, I think the final schedule question, do you have anything to add on that, Jeff?
No, other than we've had discussions with various members of the authority that are deeply involved in the resiliency project, and they recognize the need for a clearer schedule. And they are working as we speak on trying to come up with one that would be more reliable than simply going to the environmental impact statement. And they also want to make it clear and plain from their website. Not, we shouldn't have to fish around to find it. I would expect, and I don't have a promised date from them, but I would expect before the end of the year, we are likely to have an updated schedule.
Okay.
Oh, let's get it.
I know there's been a lot of other questions. Roseanne, do you have a question?
Am I on mute?
No.
I have a question. Where can we involved in the lawsuit if they have one?
Mark, I'll pass that one to you, but I think the short
Right.
answer is we don't know anything about the lawsuit. The
Okay.
Tenants Association are not involved in the lawsuit.
Right. Okay. So where can we find out about it? Would you know?
I don't have any. Mark, do you have any
Where would-
information? Mark, you're on mute for some reason.
I'm sorry, is that better?
Yes.
Yes, I'm sorry. There have been a couple articles in the local newspapers.
Oh, I
So if you have copies of the broadsheet or you go online to the broadsheet, I believe they covered that story and have some additional information about who the parties are that are looking at that.
I see. Thank you. That's about it. I mean, if it sounds like a done deal, so.
Jamie, I see your question. It was a lawsuit that the Tenants Association's not involved in, but they are trying to go against the resiliency. The resiliency project shouldn't move forward. Well, guys, we set up 35 minutes. We wanted to hear from you. We see lots of questions in the WhatsApp. Maybe I can address a couple. We did actually get a couple of questions today answered from management about the front construction. Lou, you go. then I'll talk about front office construction.
Okay, this isn't a question, it's more of a in memoriam. Is anybody else feeling the impact of the upper room's loss already? Seeing it go down yesterday and today with the beats of the drill was like gunshots in my ears as I was walking my dogs. And what was murdered was a beautiful piece of art that existed for 40 years. And I can't believe, not GPTA, that the BPCA couldn't do anything to go around it, to just negate the value of that piece of art, and that was functional to so many people, including the construction workers last week, having lunch there and breakfast. That's all.
I was just going to say, I think the whole community, especially those of us who have been here for a long time, share that.
Agreed. All right. So let me tell you guys about front lobby construction. So the front entrance project, I'll just caveat all of this. This came from management. And we know that the project, the front office, the front entrance construction has been super delayed. But they are telling us now, as of today, that they expect to be 95% complete by the end of next week. Our intentions are to eliminate all construction barriers and completely open up the pedestrian walkways and vehicle lanes. There will then be some punch list items that will be completed between 11:24 and 12:05. These items will be segregated to specific sections of the front entrance. So that's the front entrance update. And then there's a couple of things about lobby renovations. And I know I saw these questions in the WhatsApp of lobby construction in the middle of Black Friday. We did ask management about that. They told us that they plan to hire additional staff to manage all of the packages in such a confined area with construction going on. Hopefully that's true. But they've also updated now that they expect, they are calling it a soft start on or about December 1st. So I think initially they said mid-November. Sounds like they've pushed it back now to December 1st for that lobby in between 375 and 385. They're going to do some rerouting of foot traffic in the area for safety. And they reiterated they're increasing building personnel during the time. And they're going to put up coming soon photos, I think, of what it's going to look like. And then 395 is also going to have some lobby renovation, but it's not going to start until 375-85 is 90% complete, which they expect to be late spring next year, late spring 2026.
And I think there's a couple new questions here.
Yeah, I have a question.
Perfect. Go ahead, Janice. Then we'll do the
Yeah.
ones in the chat.
So I've been asking this for like 30 years. And now that I'm 30 years older, I'm taking taxis almost everywhere I go. And the taxi drivers think I live in Chase Bank when I tell them to come to 355 South End Avenue. Is there any way that we could get management to post the numbers of our buildings out at the beginning of that driveway? Please.
It's a great question, Janice, and I remember you'd asked this. We did talk to management about it.
Multiple times.
We also raised it with management, and I think they said that they were receptive to it, Rosalie, but they were waiting until the front entrance construction was complete. They wanted to get the big construction out of the way before they put up the numbers. But I'm glad you brought it up again. We can certainly raise it again since they're 95% done. We'll raise it again.
Please do. Yeah, I mean, it's just so inconvenient, and it just like daily, I have to direct taxis and rides, Uber, Access-a-Ride they're sitting and waiting. They say, I'm here. And I say, no, you're not here. I'm in front of my building and you're not here. They say, yeah, we're here. I don't live in the Chase Bank. So,
Um,
all right, thank you. I would appreciate if you could finally get that done.
I think the question about GTA, why we are not involved in the lawsuit, I might pass that one to Jeff. Seems like a good question for Jeff.
Well, I'm not going to comment on the actual lawsuit itself, but I mean, I can only speak for myself on why I'm not backing the lawsuit. I don't believe the board has ever formally considered one way or the other, although we've certainly discussed the existence of the lawsuit. I think the resiliency project, frankly, is necessary. We are seeing, we are projected to see some significant sea level rise over the next 50 years. Many of us saw what Sandy looked like. Sandy in 2050 will be far different from what Sandy actually was. And you can see what the projections look like. And these aren't things that somebody's just making up out of the, out of the back of an envelope. There's quite a bit of massive and very rigorous engineering analysis, and the water heights, and it's not limited to Battery Park City. This is a project that starts up on the up near Houston Street and continues all the way down the East River, and then continues through the resiliency projects here. And they're all based on the same, basically, climate change forecasts and the increased storm forecast. So I think the project is necessary. And what we need to work on, and what we have been working on, many of us in the community, is to make the work much more community friendly. If you see what the Army Corps proposed just putting a wall next to the water 20 feet high, blocking everybody from the water. That's not what these projects are turning out to be. And if we had left it to the Army Corps, that's what they would have done. So that's my short answer. And I think the lawsuit runs counter to the very important objective of protecting Lower Manhattan from future storms.
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, I just dropped a screenshot from the Battery Park City presentation last week that outlines what you were talking about. It's not unique to us. It's kind of all across the island. We do live on an island, so you can see the other projects that are going on as well. Ken has a question. I unmuted you, Ken. If he's still there.
is he there? Right.
Well, Ken, jump in whenever you're ready. Oh,
There he's, we can't hear him.
no.
I think this happened last time, Ken, at the resiliency meeting. Okay.
You are unmuted, but I'll go to Farina's question.
But I think he says his question, doesn't he? Didn't he write it down?
Oh, he says, I have a question.
Oh,
Please unmute.
sorry. Yeah.
So rent prices going down because of the construction. What we have learned from BPCA, the Battery Park City Authority, is that they are not planning to provide rent abatements to Gateway residents. I don't think at all that means rent prices won't go down. I'm not an expert on rent fluctuations, but I think what we said in our presentation and what we have in our FAQ as well is it's so important to negotiate with Gateway. Gateway is going to set the rent prices, and if you have construction concerns, you should escalate them to Gateway, and you should copy us, because we're all going to be facing these same issues, and we're all going to be facing whatever kind of rent increases or lack thereof at the same time. So if you copy GTA on your emails, it will really help us. And hopefully we can pass along some information when folks are successful in negotiating. Victoria, go ahead.
Hi, thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate, Anna, what you said. Particularly, as leases come to be renewed, I think it's important to keep in mind, particularly for market rate tenants, that this is going to be a disruptive uh, construction. So it is a piece of information that as you engage in negotiations with Marina Towers or Gateway, I think it's important to bring this up along with anything else that you think is favorable to you, such as you've been timely paid, you paid timely and you've been a good tenant and whatnot. So, but I do think it's important to keep this in mind. I think a lot of us, I've been surprised by how many tenants are actually unaware about the resiliency project. So as it spreads, we might see a change in the rents as going forward. So definitely something to keep, narrow to keep in your quiver.
I think
The
something
second,
else to keep in mind, particularly for those people who might consider a 2-year renewal. If you do a 2-year renewal early in 26, that will be into the part of the project where Gateway is more impacted. So I think we might start to see some of Gateway's strategy on rental when we start to see what they're offering on 2-year renewals. So again, we'll try to solicit feedback, but for those tenants who do start to receive lease renewals early next year, be helpful if we can understand what those 1 and 2-year renewals look like.
Jeff, can you tell us a little bit about the pool and the lawn impacts?
Yes, I just saw that. So what Battery Park City Authority said at the meeting that we had last week or so is when it comes to that part of the project, which looks to be, roughly a year in from when it starts, they will be building a construction fence roughly 6 feet in from the current privacy wall. And from their perspective, from the contractors and the authorities' perspective, that they are not requiring the pool or the lawn to be shut down, but they are taking away 6 feet from those spaces. So it's going to be up to Gateway management to determine whether they will keep the pool open or not, whether they will restrict access to that back lawn or not. But as far as the resiliency project people are concerned, their impact is 6 feet into those spaces and not a physical impact beyond that. So we as a tenants association are certainly pursuing with management what their intentions are with respect to the pool and the back lawn, but we don't have an answer from them yet.
Thanks. Jamie was asking about the 2-year leases. The last we heard, Jamie, from management about 2-year leases was that it was during when Good Cause had just been passed, and they were saying they weren't sure how Good Cause was going to be applied across a 2-year lease. So they just stopped doing 2-year leases at that point. Maybe at this point they figured out how to apply Good Cause across 2-year leases. But I think, like Mark was saying, it's really important people take the survey that we sent out so that we can figure out if they're doing 1, 2 longer leases again. It's a long way of saying I'm not sure.
I see, Anna, there's a question in the chat asking a request to show that slide of month 1 through month 57.
Yes, someone put a photo of it, but I can also share screen again. One moment. I'll share my screen for that. And while I do that, Good Cause, it was a law that was passed in 2024 that applies to many Gateway apartments. We don't want to say all of Gateway. Did I share the right screen? Can you guys see the Northwest Resiliency slide?
Yes, yes.
Okay, perfect. The Good Cause law set limits on how much management can raise rents based on a kind of a complicated calculation of based on inflation and 4% or 5%. I can't remember exactly, but
I
last
believe
year,
I believe it's 5% plus inflation.
thank you. So last year that came out to around 8.8%. And that was the max that Gateway was allowed to raise rents on apartments that are covered. And there are a handful of apartments at Gateway that aren't covered by the law, but a lot of them are covered. Mine was covered. Most one bedrooms, right, Jeff? I think that's correct.
Yes, most one bedrooms, maybe all one bedrooms are covered. Some two bedrooms were not covered. And that's because the way the law was written, it has a maximum rent that if the rent in the apartment is above a certain level, then it no longer applies. Now, this is an issue that we've been working with our elected officials on to try to get remedied because we think that that upper limit is completely inappropriate. But that's the way the law currently reads.
And while I have this slide up, I just want to reiterate that this information, we've summarized what was presented by the Battery Park City Authority last week. You can hear directly from them by watching the Zoom recording, which we have on our website. And this information is our best summary of that. But if you have questions, the best place to go is directly to the authority and ask them.
Yeah, and just to further clarify, the part in the sort of the gray, the light gray, is our summary from what they said last week. The month 1, 13, 31, and 57 information is from the environmental impact statement, which was which is dated of May of this year. We've had discussions with the authority about whether that schedule is still correct, and they basically say they think that it is, but they are finalizing the schedule now and will update us if the schedule changes.
Perfect. Yeah. And also, as it pertains to the area around 375, that's what we've tried to capture here. So, and I can go back to this map, Rector, Albany, kind of starting from south and moving north, the Esplanade right behind Gateway, the Marina, Pump House Park. This is how it's going to be impacted just during site readiness. The rest of this is a little more up in the air, and we do know that 375 itself will be impacted. I don't think we know the months of that, right, Jeff?
No, it's likely to be that month 13 work segment, which is 3 years long. When they get to the actual work underneath, I mean, what that work consists of in a nutshell is that the entire Esplanade is being replaced in the area directly in front of Gateway, all the way down to the piles. And so there'll be new piles, new everything there, and that's why it takes so long. When they get to the point of being right underneath the 400 building within that time frame, I don't know, but it will be sometime in that time frame.
So on this map, this is Gateway, this is 375, and this is the Esplanade that they're replacing.
Yes.
There's a few more questions. Do we know if the upper limit changes each year based on 8% from the prior year? Oh, the upper limit, are you referring to the, Nicole, the value of the apartment that's covered by the good cause law? Okay, yes.
Okay.
I don't think that
Yes,
you answer, Jeff.
Yeah, short answer is that it is. So there are two things that are published every year that's relevant to good cause. One is the Consumer Price Index numbers, and the other is the average. There's a HUD publishes something called the average fair market rent in areas, and so this upper level of what good cause applies to is based on, I think, 245% of whatever the stated average fair market rent is for each class of apartment. And that number changes every year. And it could go up, it could go down. So short answer is yes, both the 8% number and the upper limit number are changed every year. And every year, I believe it's in May of every year, the HPD or some state agency on housing will publish what those numbers are.
And since this has come up a couple of times, I just wanted to pull up, this is our website, gpta.org. If you go to member resources, frequently asked questions. This is the first one. My rent is increasing a lot. What can I do about it? This link is a link to, now it is maybe a little bit of an older post from June of last year, but it has a lot of information about the good cause law. I think it has a link to a legal aid site. It has what the limits were at that time, but definitely do some Googling, and we'll take a look at updating this with the latest numbers. These were updated as of April. And I think Ken had also asked, is there any relation to age and income? No. Okay, Victoria answered. Victoria, did you also have your hand raised?
I did, but Jeff covered it.
Okay, perfect. Could someone explain the difference between QRS and RS? There is no rent stabilization at Gateway. You're either market rate or quasi rent stabilized. Correct, Jeff?
That's correct.
So it's just that the quasi rent stabilization is the name of the agreement that was reached in 2009.
Yes, that's right. And that 2009 agreement is basically a renewal or a renegotiation of a series of agreements that began in 1986.
I think someone else had their hand raised and I missed them earlier. No. G, whoever G is, thank you. We appreciate it.
Janice, Evelyn wrote, I don't know if you saw it in the chat, but she works at Uber on exactly the problem. And if you want to contact her as well about how to get them to pick you up at your door.
You have a direct contact at Uber, Janice.
Contact.
Oh, okay. Who's that contact?
It's Evelyn.
Thanks, Evelyn.
Evelyn.
Janice, I think I have Evelyn's email on our newsletter list, so I can connect you guys after this.
Okay. All right.
Honestly, Uber might be faster than Gateway Management. You never know.
True. But mostly I use taxis because I have the app for Curb. If any of you don't know about that one, it's terrific. And I always have to call them and tell them how to get into Gateway or that 355 where 355 South End is. And, sometimes I'm late for appointments because they just don't get it. Yeah. So we really do need to get numbers out there. I've seen people walking up and down on South End Avenue with a slip in their hand of the address, and they're looking for a number that says 355 or 375 or 345. And it's just unconscionable that they've never fixed that problem.
Yeah, excuse me, my hand. How do I raise my hand here?
You're here, Jim. Go ahead.
Okay. I just wanted to say I've observed that too, and what I found is Uber's the only one that has a map system that actually has the driveway and the individual apartment addresses on it. Lyft doesn't have that. They always get lost. I don't know about Curb. I'd be skeptical, but that's been my observation, and that's why I tend to use Uber, especially if it's raining or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
well,
in the software.
they're twice as expensive as the taxis.
Well, I guess it
True.
depends on the time. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
Well, so maybe we can get it done. If I can help in any way, or you tell me who to speak to, I'd be happy to do that.
I see we have a question in the chat about the mayor's proposed rent freeze would not apply to Gateway. The short answer is probably, well, the short answer is no, at least not before 2030. Those of you who, well, anybody who's on QRS will remember perhaps that before 2020, the rent increases were tied to what the rent stabilization board, the city's rent
Yes,
stabilization program determined. And you may remember that during some years of the de Blasio administration, it was 0% for a few years. In recent years, rent stabilization has been higher than the current level in the QRS agreement. It's, in 2020, it switched to 2.5, just a flat 2.5% a year, irrespective and independently of whatever the rent stabilization guidelines are. So what the incoming mayor is proposing is to freeze the rent stabilization guidelines at 0%, and those do not apply currently to the Gateway QRS people.
thank you for pointing that out, Jeff.
Welcome.
Hey, Dennis, I see your question. I think the answer is that we try our best to answer all emails, but certainly a few have slipped through the cracks, and I am sorry personally that I haven't answered yours. If you could send it again, I'll make sure it gets answered this week. We did have a few questions submitted on our Ask Us Questions file. So let me just pull that up. But go ahead and throw more questions in the chat if you have them. You know, this is one I've honestly wondered about for a while. So maybe some of the board members know the answer about exterior windows being cleaned and the responsibility of Gateway management on maintaining exterior facilities. I think the short answer is that we're responsible for the outside of our own windows.
Certainly historically, that's been the case. And there are ways to get them clean. Some of the porters will do it for you. I mean, you pay them to do it. And I think some tenants have even figured out how to do it themselves, but they're braver than I am. But no, management does not, or at least historically has not, cleaned the exterior windows.
Correct.
Let's
I think
see.
Janice is putting her hand up again.
Go ahead, Janice.
You're on mute.
Oh, I am. Hold
No,
on.
Janice.
No, Jim, we can hear you, but Janice was trying to speak.
Oh, sorry, I think I was muted.
Now we can hear you.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was still muted. So when they put the windows in, they told me that you can bend them in so that you are able to clean them yourself. And I thought that was great. I can do my windows myself, or with the help of one person maybe. But when I went to do them, they said, no, you can't, because there's a key that we're not going to give you that allows you to bend them in, because we don't want you to do them yourself. So I do have the porters. Roberto just did mine last week, the day before it rained, of course. But yeah, they don't want you to do them yourself, and we really should be able to.
We can raise that. I suspect it's a liability issue. They don't want any of us falling out the window, but
Well, a couple have jumped from this building, so
I know that.
yeah, not funny. I'm sorry.
I see Barry's hand up. Go ahead, Barry. Oh, Barry, you're on mute. Let me unmute you. No, still muted. On this side, it looks like you're unmuted.
Yeah.
Barry, put it in the chat if you can, and then we'll answer it. Can you type it in?
Is remuted. Okay. While we're waiting for that, Michael, has anyone had any luck with the product to winterize the windows? The metal sills don't make using the plastic sheeting possible.
So in a really recent email from Gateway, actually, a few people have given anecdotes about this in the WhatsApp chat, but there was also an email from Gateway Management that I believe they said maintenance will come and check the ceiling around your unit and your windows. I can't promise that they'll do anything about it. I've had them come before and glance at something and say, yeah, it looks all right. But I think if you push them, they put it in the email that they would check all of the ceiling around the windows. I'll find the email.
I see Jim has a question. How responsive is Gateway to remediate mold problems in the bathroom and kitchen? My short answer to that is if you find out, let me know.
I actually have had this issue in my bathroom, and this is just my personal experience. Once I put in a ticket and I said, there's this crazy mold. We've done our best to clean it about 75 times. And now the paint is like completely rubbed off our ceiling and we can't tell what's mold and what's just like drywall. And the maintenance ticket went in and there were painters doing something in a nearby apartment. And they stopped by ours and they didn't really speak to us, but they saw the issue on the ceiling and they put some kind of molds preventive, like, I guess, like to stop mold from growing type of covering on there. And then they painted it. And I would say that lasted 6 or 7 months. And I put in another ticket and I got a formal response from management saying, as a courtesy, we will come and repaint again, which wasn't super encouraging because I didn't really feel that it was a courtesy, but that was my personal experience. So they've repainted it twice. And both times they used this mold sealant. And I imagine if they didn't use that, it would have been worse. But it's not a great solution.
I think, I don't know this for certain, but I think you can make a 311 complaint if you truly have mold. I think the issue that I've had is a disagreement over whether something is mold or not. And I'm not a mold tester, but it looks like mold to me sometimes.
Well, I intend to hire a professional environmental tester. I did it once many years ago after 9/11, and they come in and they do the report. Because I believe I've had this problem in my parents' place in Pittsburgh. This is like real mold. And what has to be done, it's just, you can't just slap over. I know the mold killing paint, but it depends. You may have to actually remove the drywall and replace the drywall.
Yeah.
And I've been told by some of my neighbors below me who were there that their whole kitchen was behind the dishwasher. Washer was all mold covered. So my thinking is that probably in in the 375 line, there's a lot of mold down the J line between the wall that separates the kitchens from the bathroom, because it's the same wall. And see, I noticed this problem after there was that big hurricane with the flood. Was that Sandy?
Yeah.
That's where I really noticed the problem developing.
Well, we'd love to hear how it goes, Jim,
Yes.
honestly.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
will let you know, because there are claims for it that you can't leave mold in a rental apartment. I know that from some friends who had this problem in Midtown. So, okay, I just thought I'd ask. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jim. Let us know how it turns out.
Mary and Rosalie, have you guys had this hot water issue in 395?
No,
Rosalie, you're on mute. Oh, I thought you had, Mary. Never mind.
I
Sorry.
had the opposite. As I told you guys the other day, if it's a Saturday or Sunday, it takes me at least 15 minutes to get hot water. It's cold for the longest time. So this, I'm reading Alexandra's note. This is new to me, but, and we haven't heard it
In
from,
375.
oh, she's in 375?
Alexandra, if you don't mind me asking what floor, because I'm in 375 as well. And I had some weird issues with water over the last year. We've lived here for 5 years, and it's only been the last year that I've had some of those issues in 375. I haven't had like scalding water, but there is definitely a change in temperature when someone flushes the toilet.
Yeah, I'm on the 23rd.
Okay, you're above me then.
And it seems like in the past, we've been here for about 4 years. And I don't really remember it the first year, but P. And sorry, somebody just asked what
You're in
line,
P
and I said
line.
P line. Yeah. Sorry. But I don't remember it the first year that we moved here, but for the past few years, yeah, every time, I hear a toilet flush somewhere along the line, and then it's scalding hot water, and my toddler will not wash her hands. Like, we have to use exclusively Purell for her because she's afraid to wash her hands. And
Oh.
within reason, because it is actually that hot.
Well,
That
you know,
certainly.
and
And
I'll
Go.
just,
I spoke to Dode about it actually, and he told me there's nothing that can be done.
well, we can bring it up at our next meeting with management.
Okay, thank you.
I see Barry asked a question of me. Please elaborate what you meant. I believe you said that porters will do it, that is cleaning the windows. The porters basically often will do work for you if you pay them separately to do various tasks. We've been here so long that we just know which porters are likely to be willing to do it, and just collar them when we see them and ask them, and they'll, when they have time, they'll come by. I would imagine the doorman in your building will know. I see you, Barry. I imagine the doorman in your building probably knows who does this kind of work for hire. Does that answer your question?
I think we can hear you now, Barry.
You can hear me?
Yes.
I apologize. Technology is great. I don't know what happened. I lost you when I got myself. Anyway, I'm fully back. Windows. If you've answered this, I apologize. The porters will do it, you said, Jeff?
Yes, so that's what I was just trying to answer, and too bad you couldn't hear it. Yes, they will. I mean, it's my general experience is that any number of the porters are prepared to do sort of work for pay for you that's not within their normal scope of responsibility, and there generally are some that are prepared to wash windows. Your doorman will probably know if you ask your doorman, which of the porters will wash windows, and they'll likely tell you, and then put you in touch with the porter, and then you agree to what I don't recall how much we paid them. Whatever it was certainly worth it. And it was, it wasn't terrible. It seemed reasonable.
Okay, I won't give his name. I used someone for years who was great. And then he told me he can't do it anymore. I assume they're cutting back. Anyway, I
Oh,
appreciate
it's possible that there may be some building policy against it, and maybe the ones I'm thinking of have.
it. Could be the building, could be the guy. Anyway, thank you so much. I appreciate the answer.
Sure.
I'll also say there's a nice lady named Daphne. I think it's Daphne who's done mine. I think she charges $25 a window. But she does a great job.
By the
I had Roberto just did mine last week, and he's a porter in our in 355 200 building. Does a great. He's been doing mine for years. He does charge 160. I don't know how many windows do I have, 5, whatever. But he does such a good job. It's great.
Victoria, I'm sorry I missed your hand.
No, no worries. I was just gonna say also that that I've seen in the Gateway chat, maybe that's who you were referring to, Anna, was someone who is in the building who does windows here in the building. She'll clean windows for people. So and there are other or like, I don't know if you're familiar with TaskRabbit. I've never used them for cleaning windows, but they've helped build furniture or disassemble furniture for me. So just a place to get kind of handiwork around the house if a porter can't or isn't available.
Perfect. Well, we've gone about 10 minutes over, and I see the questions have kind of slowed down. So I think we will wrap it up for tonight. We will post these slides on our website, and you can see the Zoom from last week with the Battery Park City about resiliency. It's on our website. We're still waiting for the authority to review the notes and get back to us on exactly the dates that they had mentioned in the presentation, but we'll post that as soon as we can as well.
I think that is now available on their website. If you're talking about this slide deck,
They did post the slides, and I'm gonna post those. But what I meant was, we took Zoom takes AI notes, which is great.
Yeah.
Zoom took AI notes, which were great, and they put it in a really concise, like summarized format. But there were some errors in it because it's AI, so we asked them to review it and make sure it's correct.
Okay.
Sure, we'll post this Zoom recording too.
Just want to thank everybody for joining us. And, again, if the more we know about what's affecting Gateway residents, the more we could advocate. So if you're writing to Gateway, copy us on it so we get a sense of what the broader issues are. And again, if you haven't joined GPTA, please do. And tell your neighbors to join GPTA, and just and keep checking in with our website from time to time.
Join GTA.
Keep checking our website, and we'll also, you'll be getting the newsletters, and just thank you so much. We appreciate your attendance tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all. Good
Bye-bye.
night.
Thank you, everyone.